The first time someone slapped me in public, I didn't even understand why. A woman I had never seen before screamed, "How could you abandon your own daughter?" Then she hit me so hard my lip split open in the middle of a grocery store. And the horrifying part? Half the people around us looked at me like I deserved it. Because my mother spent 3 years convincing everyone I was a deadbeat father. To a child that never even existed. My name is Evan Mercer. I'm 30 years old, and until 4 years ago, I genuinely believed my mother loved me. Manipulative sometimes? Sure. Overprotective? Definitely. But criminal? I never imagined that word would eventually describe her perfectly. Growing up, it was always just me and my mom. My father disappeared before I was born. At least that's what she told me. Mom raised me alone in a small town outside Columbus. She worked 2 jobs, cried often, and constantly reminded me how much she sacrificed for me. "You're all I have, Evan." She said it so often it became part of my identity. I felt responsible for her happiness before I even understood what adulthood meant. If I stayed out too late with friends, she cried. If I talked about moving away someday, she got headaches. If I dated anyone seriously, suddenly she became sick or emotionally fragile. At first, it felt like love. Then eventually, it felt like suffocation. Still, I tried being a good son. I stayed close to home for college. Worked locally afterward. Paid bills when she struggled. And every time I attempted independence, she reminded me how cruel abandonment felt. "You wouldn't leave me alone after everything I've done for you, right?" That guilt controlled me for years. Then I met Claire. And for the first time in my life, someone gently pointed out something uncomfortable. "Your mom treats you more like a partner than a son." I got defensive immediately. That's not fair. But deep down, I knew what she meant. Mom hated Claire instantly. Not openly. Strategically. Little comments. "She seems controlling. She's taking all your time. You've changed." Eventually, Claire confronted me directly. "Evan, every time we make plans, your mother creates a crisis." I wanted to deny it. But I couldn't anymore. Because it was true. The night I planned to move in with Claire, my mother suddenly collapsed claiming chest pain. The hospital found nothing wrong. 2 weeks later, Claire quietly ended the relationship. Not because she stopped loving me. Because she was exhausted. "I feel like I'm dating both of you," she whispered crying. That breakup shattered me. But instead of waking up, I stayed trapped. Then things became bizarre. About a year later, strangers started recognizing me in public. At first, it seemed random. Weird stares. Cold reactions. Then one barista muttered, "Some men shouldn't become fathers." I froze. "What?" She walked away immediately. My stomach twisted. A week later, an older man approached me outside a gas station. "You should be ashamed of yourself," he snapped. "For what?" "Your daughter deserves better." "Daughter?" I stared at him in complete confusion. "What daughter?" But he walked off disgusted before I could say more. At first, I honestly thought it was mistaken identity. Until my coworker Jenna finally told me the truth. "Evan," she said awkwardly during lunch, "people think you abandoned a little girl." I laughed because it sounded insane. Then Jenna showed me Facebook posts. My blood ran cold. My mother had been posting photos of a young girl for over 2 years. Calling her my daughter. Telling emotional stories about how I walked away and refused financial support. Thousands of comments. People praising my mother for raising her granddaughter alone. Others calling me a monster. Deadbeat. Coward. I physically couldn't breathe. Because the child in those photos wasn't mine. I didn't even know who she was. I drove to my mother's house immediately. She opened the door smiling. Until she saw my face. What is this? I demanded, shoving my phone toward her. For a split second, she looked terrified. Then calm. Oh, she sighed softly. You found the posts. Found the posts? That child isn't mine. My mother crossed her arms defensively. She needed help. What are you talking about? Then came the first twist. The little girl was named Lily. And according to my mother, Lily belonged to a distant cousin struggling with addiction years earlier. Apparently, the cousin lost custody temporarily and disappeared. My mother took the child in unofficially. At first, that almost sounded noble. Until she continued speaking. People donate more when there's a story. I felt sick instantly. What? She needed food. Clothes. Stability. So you invented a fake daughter and turned me into a villain? My mother started crying immediately. I did what I had to do. I stared at her like she was a stranger. Because suddenly all those random reactions from strangers made horrifying sense. She built an entire online identity around me being an absent father. And people believed her. For years. Take the posts down, I whispered. Instead, she looked at me coldly. No. That one word changed everything. Over the next month, my life became hell. Employers saw the posts. Dates disappeared after Googling my name. Even coworkers treated me differently once rumors spread. I begged my mother repeatedly. Please stop. Every time, she twisted it emotionally. You care more about your reputation than that little girl. Eventually, I contacted a lawyer. That's when twist number 2 exploded. The lawyer's investigator uncovered something horrifying. The donations my mother collected for Lily totaled nearly $180,000 over 3 years. Cash apps. Fundraisers. Church donations. Sympathy campaigns. And almost none of it went toward the child. My hands shook reading the report. Meanwhile, Lily herself was living mostly with different relatives while my mother used carefully staged photos online to maintain the story. It wasn't charity. It was fraud. Emotional fraud built on destroying my identity. And it got even worse. The investigator found forged documents. Fake text conversations. Edited screenshots pretending I ignored my daughter. My mother manufactured years of evidence against me. That's when I finally understood something terrifying. This was never just about money. My mother needed me trapped emotionally. If people hated me. If relationships failed. If jobs became harder. I'd stay close to her. Dependent. Isolated. The same way she wanted my entire life. Then came the moment that truly broke me. I finally met Lily. She was 7 years old. Tiny. Quiet. Nervous. Her real guardian aunt arranged the meeting secretly after learning what my mother had done. The second Lily saw me, she smiled shyly and asked, "Are you the bad dad?" I nearly collapsed. I knelt in front of her shaking. "No, sweetheart," I whispered. "I'm not your dad at all." She looked confused. "But Grandma Diane said you didn't want me." I started crying instantly. Because this innocent little girl had been manipulated too. Used like a prop in my mother's fantasy. That night, I made my decision. No more protecting her. No more guilt. No more silence. The final twist came from somewhere I never expected. Claire. My ex. Apparently, she'd quietly followed everything online for months after mutual friends showed her the posts. And she discovered something huge. Years earlier, my mother used similar fake stories in smaller community groups involving medical emergencies and housing crises. Not as massive. But enough to establish a pattern. Claire handed everything to my lawyer. And suddenly the entire case exploded. Fraud investigators got involved. Charity organizations demanded records. Church leaders started asking questions publicly. My mother panicked immediately. She called me crying hysterically. "You're ruining my life." I finally snapped. "No," I said calmly. "You ruined your own life when you used a child to destroy mine." Then came the climax. The investigation uncovered over 40 falsified fundraising campaigns tied to my mother over 12 years. Different stories. Different victims. Same manipulation pattern. But the worst part? She genuinely believed she was justified. During questioning, she told investigators, "I only lied because nobody helps lonely women unless they're suffering." That sentence haunted me. Because buried inside all the manipulation was a deeply broken person who spent years weaponizing victimhood until she couldn't separate reality from performance anymore. She eventually accepted a plea deal involving fraud charges, restitution payments, and mandatory psychiatric evaluation. And the day local news published the story, everything changed overnight. People who hated me for years suddenly apologized. Coworkers looked ashamed. Strangers deleted old comments. But honestly, the damage stayed. Because once thousands of people believe something horrible about you, part of that stain never fully disappears. My mother tried contacting me dozens of times afterward. Letters. Voicemails. Excuses. I never answered. Not out of revenge. Out of survival. Today, Lily lives safely with relatives who genuinely care about her. Claire and I slowly rebuilt our relationship after years apart. And me? I'm still learning what life feels like without guilt controlling every decision. Sometimes I think about that grocery store slap. About how easy it was for the world to believe I abandoned a child. But honestly, the cruelest part wasn't the public humiliation. It was realizing my own mother created an imaginary daughter. Just to make sure I never escaped her.